You know, I'm often asked how leadership changes or should change as a church grows. And there are a lot of ways in which it changes. The tasks that you do, the time that you have, the margin that you have, the things you want to focus on. But one of the most significant ones that must change is the expectations that people have relationally. Let me give you an example. People expect when a church is small, they should be able to have great access, almost instant access. And I think that's probably appropriate in a startup stage of a church. But one of the things that will happen is as you grow larger, if you don't change those relational expectations and clarify expectations, you're going to have conflict, you're going to hit a lid, or you're going to end up a divorced pastor. I can pretty much guarantee it. And there's something you're going to have to learn to live with as far as what you yourself as a leader can do. And that is you're going to have to live with disappointing people. Because everybody's going to say, Larry, take time for yourself, or Pastor so-and-so, take time for yourself. What they mean, though, is take time for yourself as long as it doesn't impact me. Everybody thinks it's supposed to show up somewhere else, but they are special. And so the reality is, if you are going to put some of those boundaries into your time, into your schedule, where you say, boy, I'm sorry I'm booked, and what booked means is you're at your son or daughter's Little League game, or you're at a date with your wife, whatever that would be, they're not going to understand that, especially if they find out it's not some crisis meeting. But again, that's leadership. My friend Sam Chad says that one of the lids we have in leadership is our ability to handle the pain of leadership pain. And by that pain, he doesn't mean so much the internal pain, but the external pain of failing to meet people's expectations and the fact they don't always respond as we would like to think they would. Some other thoughts that come to my mind about how you change as your church grows. One of them is never pay attention to that old cliche that says if somebody can do something 80% as good as you, have them do it. Especially if it's something that is life-giving or you're particularly excellent at. There are a lot of things you ought to give away, but too often we give away for a while those things that are life-giving to us and that we are particularly excellent at. And they are the things that kind of keep the joy in ministry. Maybe for you it's counseling, so you'd continue to have a little bit of counseling. For me, it's some of my involvement in finances and architecture and all of those things. I'm really good at it, and they're life-giving to me. And so if I suddenly just ask the question, okay, what can only I do? I'd really be asking a question that might be organizationally a good question, but would be personally and long-term health-wise a very bad question. At the end of the day, as you grow, the most significant thing, however, is going to go back to that idea of changing expectations. What you're at, who has access, how quickly they have access. Everything goes back to that. You need to be gracious, you need to be kind, you need to remember that you are called to be a servant leader, which means you are going to be used by people. That's part of what being a servant leader is. But you can't get used up, because you will be of no good to your family, you'll be no good to the kingdom if you're used up. And here's the truth. If you let yourself be used up, you're going to think, wow, I died a martyr they all love. It's not true. They're just going to go next, next, next. Always have, always will. That's why we're to have Jesus as our example, fulfilling the mission that he has called us to fulfill, doing the things that he and the Spirit have put before us, and realizing that we are here to serve. And we might not always get the appreciation we want. We might not always get the understanding we want. But we're playing to an audience of one.